These will look into a scenario in which Eurasia goes to war with the world. But for the scenario, I'm going to act like the red team isn't fully mobilized. It's unrealistic for them to start the war. And that the blue team is fully mobilized and was ready for this. The reason they got war declared on was because they did something they probably shouldn't have. With the first push is happening for this team, the blue team, in like Iceland. At this point, they're trying to get as many powers and strategic locations out. With an invasion of Spain, Italy, and the Middle East on multiple fronts, which leads to the capitulations of a few nations. But this is also a weaker area of the world, so yeah. With an invasion of Denmark happening, and Sweden and Norway, to secure the North Sea. I'm going to say they're getting mobilized in Europe at this time, and that failing pushes are just getting worse. There's also an Australian/Oceanian countries offensive, and do some more islands. As far as I get, because island hopping isn't easy. With the North Americans landing up here. But it becomes obviously what happens once the red team is fully mobilized. In the Middle Eastern front, not much happens to the southern front, but Turkey knocks them out. And then they start, along with Iran, pushing them back. Saudi makes some counter-offensives, even reliberating Qatar. I just realized Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, India, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Russia, working on the same team seems very weird. And the counter-offensives get a bit faster. As well, the troop supremacy, the country with the most troops, the team with most troops, you could say, is the red team. By far, because they have about 5 billion people. That's a lot of people. The other team has about 2 billion. Not much people, honestly. They can just keep sending way more troops. Their advantage is, 3 times the amount of forces. Of this advantage, they move into the North African campaign. With a big advantage, not necessarily going to make them win, as they take out the Sinai Peninsula and take control of the Suez Canal. Strategically, this allows them to control what enters the Black Sea and what leaves the Red Sea and enters the Red Sea. And then they take the strategic location of Gibraltar over fully, meaning they have complete control over the Mediterranean Sea. And they continue their offensives on 2 fronts. Because they have enough troops to do 2 fronts. They could fight 10 fronts at this point. I think there need to be about 40 fronts for them to fall. And they manage to take over the coast of North Africa, and they start moving down the Nile. Because they have control over what goes down it. Because it goes that way, I believe. And, their troops split along with the river. And they enter Ethiopia. They're moving and taking the city of Khartoum. And they move down the coast to take Egypt's coast. And they move down Sudan's coast. And with the Arabs making a landing into Ethiopia, into Djibouti. That's how far this front gets. And an invasion of Greenland, because some reason Greenland betrayed Denmark and decided to fight Denmark. Greenland quickly fell over to the other team. A bit of a big deal. With the Asian forces landing in Alaska and advancing steadily into Alaska. But luckily, America has a stronger military than them. and they managed to kick them completely out. As they also managed, this is where they managed to retake Greenland. And they managed to do it successfully, retake Greenland. They're holding defensive positions in this area. But Australia is lacking supplies. But the invasion of Australia is probably not going to be the first invasion after they re-liberate Indonesia and East Timor. No. Their first goal is to take out the islands in the Pacific, because that will prevent supplies from getting to Australia, allowing the Asians to create naval supremacy and a naval blockade. And with this naval blockade, they can prevent stuff from going in. They even invade, French islands that aren't on the same side as France. And then they land in New Zealand and take Wellington, and they move right down New Zealand. As if that would be as easy, no. They take Tasmania, and they move into the north, into Queensland, and Northern Territories, and Western Australia. They avoid the outbacks. The outback's a bit scary, I guess. And yeah. And then they hire the emus to take the rest. Yep, exactly. Pretty smart. With the counteroffensive being readied in North Africa, they managed to push them back into Libya. And in the south, they managed to push them out of parts of Ethiopia, out of all of South Sudan, and a majority of many other nations. And they decide to make an invasion of Iberia. This very strategic, so they can control one of the entrances and exits to the Mediterranean. So then they decide to land in southern Yemen to create a frontier, to create a blockade. Although, at this point, all the forces are heading towards Europe. And they take out this area. And Iran and Saudi prepare an advance as they land over here. India decides to land in Madagascar. And they start a front in Mozambique area. At this point, all they can do is hold the front from advancing too fast. With Europe going down and the coast of the Mediterranean falling, they can't really go through the Sahara. And the Sahara probably has a lot of rebellion, so yeah. And they go further into the Sahara. This doesn't make sense, but anyways. With them linking up forces to, they might have already won the war in Africa. There's almost nothing that can be done about this. With the African theater completely failing. But America manages to launch a one last African offensive, hoping to push them back far enough that they can't advance back into all the lands. But as you can tell, this isn't that successful. With India landing over here in the Cape, and then they take over South Africa, basically. They take over Mozambique, Tanzania's coast, with China moving its forces into North Africa. And its forces have just numbers upon numbers upon numbers, along with India. So, the number advantage, and, it has more strong powers, gives Asia complete dominance, basically. Except they lack the strongest nation. That's not really a big deal. With Africa falling, the next move is a landing in southern Patagonia, which failed for the Americans to detect it and stop it. Argentina is unable to stop it. Uruguay. America is being drained of more and more resources to make an offensive into an area full of lithium. And yeah, they do that. And then they take whatever they can. Yeah. And then another offensive is started. This offensive the Americans can't stop at this point. The Americans' military is completely embarrassed, demoralized at this point, and completely destroyed by artillery, fighting, whatever. Because when you're losing, you take more casualties. With them taking the Caribbean out, with America never going to be taken over. But at this point, America has shifted strategies to just hold its borders. So it holds all of Canada, holds all of Greenland. This is what it does. But their hold over Greenland starts to fade, and, well, they retreat into Canada's Arctic. So they're chased down Canada's Arctic. And yeah, not really great to be chased out of the Arctic, because the Arctic is valuable. With them being drove out of Alaska, with it looking like they're being drove out of Canada at this point, with landings on the East Coast happening. Although America holds where most of the population of Canada is. It's around here. In the areas that actually have population, America manages to hold on to. They make a bit of an offensive on multiple fronts. It looks like they're going to be, well, the only one left from last. And, well, managed to hold over here in the north. They know they can't win this war. There's no chance. But they know they can hold land. Move into parts of Mexico. And this is how America looks at the end of the video. And, well, I'm not going to really be able to give a peace treaty. I'm not going to draw one. But I'm going to show how the world now looks. Either all these nations were turned into Eurasian puppets to different nations. And this is what the world looks like now. Can America stay and keep freedom? That's pretty much all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe. Bye, guys.